happy coincidence today. I've got my Star Lads t-shirt on, I've got my new Flash ring. So it's time for me once again to talk about The Flash. This time it's season 4. After finishing season 3, I felt I could do with a little more Flash this year, so I decided to purchase and rewatch through season 4, which came out between 2017 and 2018. Now, this particular season had a lot more going for it, and I'll admit, the main villain, while I might have overlooked him previously, I actually think rewatching it, he is pretty sinister. So, anyway, season 4 saw. The end of season 3 saw Barry Allen head into the Speed Force in order to stop the Speed Force storm and save Central City from its destruction. However, and the team are making a job of trying to protect the city in his absence. Cisco Ramon, Joe West, everyone is trying to. Uh, Wally West, everyone's making an effort to try and keep Central City safe with the Flash no longer there. But when they find the city threatened, once again they have to find a way to release Barry from the Speed Force and ultimately find a way to bring back the Flash. Once again, you got all the great characters here and all the great actors once again playing them. Grant Gustin, Candice Patton, Carlos Valdes, Danielle Panabaker, Jessica Martin, Danielle Nicolette, and Tom Cavanaugh all returned. The only one who did slightly receive a downgrade in their role is Wally West, or Kid Flash, played by Keenan Lonsdale. He's there at the start of the season, and he does well, and then he ultimately leaves for a little while after he and his girlfriend Jessie Quick break up. Although he does return briefly for Barry and Iris' wedding partway through the series, which I do like, and he also returns at the very end in order to be there for the birth of his, the welcome home party of his new baby half sister, which is nice. Now, as I said, the villain here, I had forgotten how sinister this guy was. Now, the villain that they got for this season is the Thinker, which I think was a wise choice. I mean, after the Reverse Flash, Zoom, and Savitar, I think if they had gone for another speedster main villain, I think most of us would have probably gone a little tired of it by this point. But no, they went with the Thinker, originally a Jay Garrick villain, and he is played here by Neil Sandilands. And while I think he's scary enough in the earlier parts of the season when he's in his chair with all the wires coming out of his head attaching to his brain, I think once he's actually got his powers and he's using them, he is actually pretty darn sinister. Basically, what the Thinker tries to do, he manipulates events so that the team will release Barry from the Speed Force, but it also causes the release of dark matter, which hits a bus, and that ends up creating 12 new metahumans. And he wants to capture these metahumans in order to use their powers for his ends. The 12 metas they end up creating include Kilgore, who can control technology, Hazard, who can control luck, the Weeper, who has tears that act as a drug, Black Bison, who can bring effigies to life, Brainstorm, who can read minds, Fallout, who has nuclear abilities, Dwarf Star, who can shrink things, the Fiddler, who possesses sonic abilities, Melting Point, who can swap people's abilities, Null, who can control gravity, the Folding Man, who has portal abilities, and the team's newest ally, Ralph Dibny, otherwise known as Elongated Man. He's played by Hartley Sawyer. Sawyer has actually ended up being a mainstay of The Flash for several seasons, starting out here in season 4 and actually making it all the way to the end of season 6. Unfortunately, in 2020, Hartley Sawyer was let go from the series after inappropriate tweets from earlier in his career resurfaced. I do see why they had let him go, and as I said with season 3, I thought they could have kept Tom Felton on for a little bit longer, but you know what, I think Hartley Sawyer does a great job here as Ralph Dibny. I mean, he does start off, as you said, he's annoying, you can see why everyone dislikes him, and why he was ultimately fired from the police force for being corrupt. But then as you get to know him more and more, you do start to sympathise with him, and I do like that. And aside from Neil Sandilands as the main villain, the Thinker, his wife, Marlize DeVoe, played by Kim Engelbrecht, she's also very very sinister, and you can understand why she's doing what she's doing. I mean, that's what makes these two great villains. I That's what makes any villain a great villain, is that even if you don't necessarily agree with what they're doing, you can understand why they're doing it. I mean, with the Thinker, he believes that with the rise of technology and everything coming down our phones and out our tablets, he believes that we've somehow regressed as human beings. So what he essentially plans to do is essentially kill these 12 metahumans, or at least kill 10 of them. The other two he doesn't really need, but he uses them for various purposes. But he plans to gain their powers and then use it to command a satellite that will emit some kind of field that will reduce everyone's brains and essentially turn them into simpler people. That way he can then step forward as their leader and be a teacher to teach them everything that they are doing, or teach them how to do things properly. And he says that by doing that, there'll be no more wars, no more conflict, no more starvation, and he'll be able to fix the world, even though he's doing it for nefarious purposes. And like with him, you can also understand why Marlize is doing what she's doing. Later on they show that she used, aside from being a oh god, what's the word? Well, aside from being a lecturer at Grove University, which is where she met Clifford, Clifford DeVoe, the thinker, she also used to be a missionary and used to go around the world doing projects to help out people in need, such as providing clean water for people in certain villages around the world. But when she did this in one area, they the kind of leaders of the land, the militia, they found out and then came and killed everybody there and destroyed the research, which is, after suffering something like that, you can understand why she would suddenly think, well, my husband actually did have a point. I mean, even if she doesn't necessarily agree with it, you can understand why she allies herself with this man who is essentially mad. But they also have several great guest stars in it, including Katie Sackhoff, who plays a minor villain, and Mionette Black, who the team do regularly run into. And they even got Bill Goldberg in for a couple of episodes. Basically, thanks to the Thinker's plans, Barry ends up in prison for a couple of episodes, and there he meets a man who used to be his father's friend, played by Bill Goldberg. And as I said, Neil Sandilands as the Thinker, I'd forgotten just how sinister this guy was, but in the last few episodes, even though I knew what was going to happen, just remembering it, I was terrified of this guy. Just looking at him, seeing a man in such control of the situation, he's in control and he knows it. That's truly terrifying. But eventually they do manage to sort things out and even manage to get their old friend Ralph back, and everything ends happily ever after. Or so it seems, as there's more trouble yet on the horizon, as when Joe and Cecile bring home their new daughter and everyone's having a party and stuff, there's suddenly a knock at the door, and they encounter a woman who they've encountered a few times throughout this show, but never really known who she is. She was one of the servers at Barry and Iris's wedding, and members of the team met her several times at Jitters. And the woman, played by Jessica Parker Kennedy, reveals that she's Barry and Iris's daughter from the future, and she's made a huge mistake. And honestly, how can you end on something more oh boy than that? So, season 4 of The Flash, I'll admit it's better than I think I previously would have given it credit for. First, I'm glad that they used a non-speedster villain and actually managed to make him pretty frightening. But yeah, season 4 of The Flash, that's done. I would like to include season 5 or possibly even season 6 before the year's end, but we'll have to wait and see. That's my quick little re-review of The Flash season 4. Anyway, till my next review, see ya.